Could we get the people actually to come a bit closer? I feel it's much nicer. We wanted to keep it like very personal, and so still obviously observing the safety distance, but I think we have like easily 2 meters in between here. Yeah, what it seems like it's predominant people know from the program, from BMI. I don't know how many here are from Rocket. Can we see a sign of hands? Like a few joining us here. Hold it real close that people can hear as well online, and the many holding hands online that we cannot see. So how we want to do it, it's like very interactive as well, and very personal, and very much non-PR type of thing. And it's so exciting as well. We heard here, and I think for a foreigner come to see the development here in Lithuania, it's just outright impressive, right? All the activity, all this entrepreneurship energy, and I find it really thrilling now to hear kind of the personal stories, because I think there's so many people trying to figure out in life like what to do, how this journey as an entrepreneur is. One topic oftentimes that gets ignored a bit, and we made it kind of like a topic here for the discussion, but we as well can definitely discuss other topics that people are interested to, would be how to think about like risk and this fear of failure and dealing with failure, right? What it feels like to start companies. So I would say, without further ado, let's jump right in. I think the best way would be if the entrepreneurs would introduce actually themselves, right? Because if not, I pitch it in a way that's most likely half correct. And I think it's way more authentic. And maybe we start with Agnė. You want to start? Ladies first. Kind of tell us a little bit.
Gender discrimination.
So all of these three are amazing. At a personal level, just from a business side. Everybody has their life journey. Agnė, what brought you into the entrepreneurship space there? I know you were city planning in the UK as well, and so.
Well, then research. Actually, this morning I was thinking to change my profession into entrepreneur, although I don't believe in the name as such, because it doesn't mean anything for me. I mean, if a person is curious and wants to do a lot of things, make a lot of risk, fail a lot on the way, then that makes perhaps
like a life entrepreneur type of thing, right?
Probably. It's a lifestyle, perhaps. I don't know if it's a profession. So how I became, I would just say curiosity, love doing things, love burning my fingers, and just go and try and do things and learn a lot on the way as well.
Like by background, what did you study then? And
okay.
How did you transition like a little bit? To kind of see, and then people to provide context that then you kind of can ask all kinds of questions.
So my first background is psychology and law. So this was my first year after school. Then I dropped all of it in a year. I wanted to take a gap year. Then I went into architecture because I was always good in maths and art. And I couldn't go to painting. My mom says, well, you would be just selling pictures on the
parents are so afraid that we have the fear of failure already on the side of the parents.
And I think, well, my dad wanted me to be a go to the dentistry. Mom wanted me to be a lawyer, so I went to psychology because I wanted to do that. And and basically I ended up doing two things at once, like evening classes at law school and then day in psychology. In a year, I went burnout completely, so I dropped everything, and I followed my friend into architecture because we were in school together, and I thought, okay, this is a combination between maths and art. So in architecture, I've really found that you can experiment a lot do different things. So that's how I discovered traveling and so on. And then I went to urban design. That's how I ended up in planning and solving complex problems. So not just building one building, but the whole city. From that, I came back to Lithuania and discovered that nobody builds cities here. So I went on to attracting investment with Invest Lithuania. From that, went on to business development, went on to municipalities to restructure municipal companies because of the governance and because, how organization works. So I fundraised to found the Go Vilnius, is the municipal company that attracts investment into Vilnius. And then after that, I had what they call CFO, so the Chief Family Officer position for 4 years. And I traveled to China. I was doing marketing projects. And then I was just invited to the fintech, to ConnectPay, to join in early years. because they just needed some order and some things to get sorted, so organization runs as a proper organization, and that's where I ended up in the company. So on the second, that I think I will end up with something that will lead on to my failures afterwards. So on my second week of being in organization, we had a visit from Bank of Lithuania, which developed a lot of gaps and failures afterwards, but I will leave the story for afterwards.
Okay, fantastic. And also really to see the journey through life then, and so internationally as well, and then come back to Lithuania. Yeah, I don't know who we go next with.
Okay, let's start with me. There is two guys, Audrius and Marius, my owners. They asked me, Mindaugas, we have 100,000 in our accounts. We want to make a business here, and not locally, but globally. So can you join us? I was in the third course in Swedbank. I worked in Swedbank 8 years. So maybe it's a good opportunity because I was simple project manager then, not high-level manager or similar. I didn't have, I have only my personal assistant in that days, and that's it. And these guys asked me, during 5th meeting, I think, come on, let's join us. Let's join to FinTech, SME Finance. We will start with invoice financing with 2% per month, so 24 yearly. It's so expensive because my previous clients in the Swedbank paid maximum 3.5 yearly. Yearly. So the difference and the gap was huge. As you understand, my background basically is B2B lending in the Swedbank, one of the biggest banks. Not top line position, but in SME finance, we started with from scratches, build FinTech and change the Baltics lending market. And I think we will show you one slide. I had the opportunity to send it, show some figures, how we build everything. So it goes quite well. You see the figures. We are profitable since the beginning. We already financed more than 800 million euros in the Baltics. It's a huge achievement. We are biggest non-banking player here. We are building one-stop shop for our SMEs to support our economy, which is backbone of all economy. And during this path, we had maybe not failures, but maybe like challenges, what we faced in SME Finance, in SME Bank as well, which was launched 4 months ago. So happy to share with you guys everything what was done.
So exciting times that term, and I imagine as well, no, as with COVID, the industry contracting, you're lending money to people, you're like, oh my God, let's see what will happen now.
Yeah, it was tough during the COVID. Basically, my stories like risks will be based on COVID situation, basically. I will share with you guys later.
Then we jump right into the business and the failure situation right after.
Okay.
Andrius, your personal story, so we kind of see SME finance.
Do you hear me? Just for organizers, I only have one thing left on the microphone. So if no, it's fine. My voice is fine as well. I can do that without microphone. What was the question? Sorry.
Your personal journey into the entrepreneurship space, kind of.
Yeah, look, when you put like that, you said that you started. What was it? Psychology. What was it? Psychology. So even from that, I think that failures, or let's not call it failures. I think it's just the corrections, right? It's challenges, corrections, right? Because every failure is not failure in the end, right? You have to learn something.
Like a life journey in a way, right? You're trying things. You're trying.
Yeah. So probably I developed this way of failing because Revolut essentially is my 7th startup, not my own startup, like as a co-founder, but at least the ones that I joined in like 6 years, right? So 7th one, but it kind of worked out, right? So I don't plan to join any others for the time being. But where it all started, I studied physics. You know, for some reason, I wasn't sure what to study for my bachelor. So I asked my best friend, "Where are you applying?" And he said, "Oh, applied physics." I said, okay, let me do the same. I got like good maths and physics results, so let's do the same. And I entered there together with my friend. I just listen to my friend. You listen to your mom. I listen to my friend. Before even LGBT was popular, right? It was a joke. So I studied there for 2 years, and I said, it's not gonna work for me. And I said, okay, let's finish with physics. Let's do, what else can I do? You know, it was at Vilnius University. Let's do economics. Let's do economics. I studied economics, the main course, right? The main Vilnius University course. I studied there for 2 years. It's not working for me. What else can I do? Oh, somebody was browsing like studies in the UK. And I said, oh, there's this study that accepts you for the last year. There's 3 years in the UK. I said, let's do that. Let's apply there. I applied, I entered, and I finished bachelor's in that way, right? So I essentially changed three studies, right? And then it essentially started. I did a bit of the corporate world for like 3-4 years. And after that, when I decided to go, for startup world, I essentially was changing startup. And this is essentially the advice for me, for you guys that I give to everyone. Essentially, when you join a startup, first 3 months, or at least essentially 3 months, is the time for you to decide whether it really correlates with your ambition, with your understanding, with everything. And I was exactly like that. Within 3 months, I would say, okay, this is not working to my ambitions, to the traction I'm looking for as an individual, right? Or the founders are not like, my type or something else.
Like 7 startups that you just tried out.
Yeah, I just tried it out, and everyone was like, oh my God, man, you're like, how are you going to get any normal job, right? After
like
that,
your CV, that looks so broken, like all these 3 months.
Exactly. And it's so interesting. I even wrote to Delphi a few years ago at Revolut already for like 3 years back then. Now it's 5 years. I wrote, I'd rather hire someone who changed job 10 times in 10 years than someone who didn't change a position in 10 years or didn't change a job to some extent, right, with some caveats. But everyone else, and you probably also see when you have a CV with like 12 jobs, right, over 3 years, and say, oh, this guy's or woman is changing job too often, right?
At least one stay for over a year typically looks like promising. She might stay with us then too. Right?
Maybe that's fine for the corporate world, for these traditional businesses where you kind of enter and you kind of know what to expect, right? Because you can read a lot about this business. But when you enter startup, especially at the early stage, there is no things to read about that startup, right? They're still building up, but the values are there. The potential is there, because it's not going to be that the founders one day wake up. Yesterday they were like, let's not conquer the world, let's be quiet and slow. And tomorrow they are, let's conquer the world. No, Revolut, believe me.
How many people were you at Revolut when you
20.
20 people,
yeah.
So it's the small group still in
small group doing everything.
How much is Revolut right now? Like
3,000. But it's not the number of people, I guess, that determines, this is, and it's still the beginning, right? We cannot even say that we are super successful, right, internally, right? We still have a lot of way to go.
The market cap doesn't look too bad if we talk about success.
Yeah, but the market cap is not everything, right? It's okay. When it's 1 trillion,
we'll talk about as well.
When it's 1 trillion, maybe that's anyway. So we can deep dive into this later, maybe. But one piece of advice, at least from my side, or the failure, not failure, whatever because my mom or whatever, somebody else, maybe this guy is failing because he's changing so often. Now everyone is, this guy is super successful.
Right. So we see as well, it's closely related as well. I think one look at this from this perspective, and later on it changes. As well, it's very dynamic. So super fascinating to see you're the as well deputy CEO of Revolut now.
Even at Revolut, I changed like 7 or 8 or 9 roles. That's another thing, right? It's like almost like within internally, right? Like, what else to do, right? Like physics, economics. It's kind of similar. Yeah.
So see that change is good. We see the personal kind of exploration as well. One core theme that we kind of wanted to kick it off with is learning from, or how do you deal with risk and then learning from failure. I guess as well, one core thing, maybe if we start on the risk part, not the very heavy, learning from failure and whatnot. On the risky side of things, how do you deal with this personal risk in the venture space? No, today we met different founders. We discussed about different opportunities in the entrepreneurship space. Here and there you work for secure companies or you tried things out. How did you think about the risk of now joining a project, launching a project, right? And that it might fail. We said failure rate is very high, right? Lots of things just don't work out. How do you think about the failure and the risk involved?
So, can you hear me okay? I'm securing my lipstick, so don't want to eat the microphone. But so on the failure, I think when you launch the product, when you're in a creative environment that you don't know what's going to happen, you need to measure the risk, the line. I don't know, something that you wouldn't pass. Where is your risk appetite? At least with us, and the line where you don't cross, and anything else goes within. So, if launching about products, for example, from our side, we recently launched a product that perhaps nobody needs, or needs a very, very narrow market. And now we are at the stage where we're saying like, okay, so what is the best, what can we do with the product so we can scale it out to something else that we didn't even think of. And I think these are the risks that you take and you just explore and go with it. Obviously, well, we haven't talked with our shareholder yet, or like not recently, but I presume like the culture is still like has to be there. You know, whatever you do that is new, that is not tested, you have to admit that there will be a failure, a challenge, or something that you didn't anticipate, and you know, it's a cost price that you have to just think
How did you think about your plan B, maybe? No, like assuming there is some risk, was there a plan B thinking, hey, what if this doesn't work out? So it seemed like you were experimenting a bit. What if it doesn't work out, I change to another company, it's company number 8?
I just wanted to additional what we had some problem in SME finance as well. But during the last strategic session, previously when we want to launch new product process, we calculated a lot, etc., etc. But one day, with the board members, we decided to change our approach, and change this approach like 3-4 things. And like practical principle to make a decisions quickly from our side. Fast, cost effective, client-orientated, and simple. Just avoid this risk part. There is some risk, of course, behind, but you should, how to say, try, and learning by doing, you will find the good path of your product, of your process, of your hiring process, maybe, credit risk assessment, etc., etc. So learning by doing, but simplifying every step. Maybe
being open for the change, the trying, it's okay, and the confidence that eventually we'll get to something extremely exciting, and we definitely have to change in the process. No?
I think the only key part is here you have to learn from that failure or challenge or whatever happened, because you can fail a lot and just fail again and again and again. So this is stupid. So I think the key part is like when you fail, you know, you take what do you take out of it? Like what are you going to do better today or tomorrow, and so on and on.
Sometimes we move too fast that, you know, there's not enough time to learn from mistakes, right? It's just forget what you made. From our side, you know, there is this saying, there are many sayings that we have among us, had among us, especially in the beginning, right? Because now it's kind of, we are like becoming quite risk averse because we are becoming big, right? And that's obviously, you know, central bank wants that, et cetera, et cetera. So risk is an interesting, slippery topic, if you like, right? So I hope Bank of Lithuania is not watching that.
No, we have some representatives here, but else.
No, I know it's funny, but we have to deal with that.
We learned about the good personal connections as well that you can build to resolve all the challenges that entrepreneurs have that want to create an impact.
So especially in the beginning, for example, I was the one responsible. I was hired for one thing, but then like the founder said, but you know, you were hired as to sell the business product, but actually I forgot that we don't have business product yet. So can you lead the building of business product, right? So I assembled the team, So the product that I launched, I just updated the statistics. Business product 4 years ago in summer, Revolut Business. it now has 600,000 businesses using that. I then immediately left that, to another role. I jumped to another role once I launched it. And then I remember this saying. For me, it was very, very like, I said, no, we are not ready to launch it. We are not ready to launch it. And after that, I just learned that we were exactly ready to launch it, because obviously there were a lot of glitches. When you launch something, there is a lot of glitches. You have to fix it. But since you launch it, and since it's out there in production, as they say it, right? The urgency to fix it, it's 10 times bigger than fixing something in that other
Theory
environment,
concept,
right? So we probably fixed things in a week that otherwise would have taken 3 months to fix it, and we would, because I was about to ask Nikolai, can we delay by 3 months the launch? So no, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll learn a lot by doing that. So we did it. It was like sleepless nights. Everyone, like FT wrote about that, BBC, like, oh, Revolut launched the product, and then even more businesses would come to sign up, and everything would break. But we learned a lot. It was amazing. We actually saved time, saved money by pointing developers to the right place to fix the right problems, etc. And then I read Hoffman's book, or was it the podcast by
Blitzscaling, no?
Blitzscaling, maybe. And it was this saying, especially for software companies: if you are not embarrassed when you're launching something, you are launching too late, right? So I said, oh, that makes sense, because I was super embarrassed when I was launching a Revolut business, right? So that was good. We were not launching too late, because if you're super safe, let's click the button. Now, obviously, again, the reason why I'm telling, and it was referring to the central bank of Lithuania, now we don't do these things anymore, right? So just to be clear, the caveat there, we're now pressing the button when we are like, not embarrassed, right?
You're doing a lot of sandbox
experiments. Yes, but it was super important in the early days to do that fast, to learn from the mistakes, as you said, Agnė, is learning fast from the mistakes. And it was probably one of the best decisions we actually did, from my perspective.
As entrepreneurs as well, and in the community as large, as human as well, to talk about the success side of things. But if we talk as well about the failure side, if we can take maybe one core failure story and really look at, what would we do differently, or what could we advise as well, people that maybe consider going into venturing and they most likely do similar mistake or so. What would you think about that? Like a personal big mistake, and
just leave after 3 months. If it's not working out, just leave after 3 months. My first, I'll give you another one without mentioning the name of the company. They have been recruiting, obviously, before Revolut. They have been recruiting me for 6 months. I probably met everyone, like the board, blah, 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 like 10 people there. Like they were speaking, blah, blah, like, can you join? Da, da, da. Okay, we shook hands. And I left in 1 week. Maybe it's bad from their side, but essentially I said, guys, it's good that I'm leaving now. Because otherwise we would have more problems if I stayed, right? It wouldn't work out for both sides, etc. I know we invested on both sides a lot of time and etc. I'll pay for the dinners you paid me. I was bluffing. But you get the point, right? So for me, at least from my side, it's obviously on the personal side, because it may not work for everyone, but this is the times we're living in. It's probably not for these times to be stuck with something if it really doesn't correlate with your ambition. For me, it's this ambition trajectory that I have. I have this imagination that, okay, my ambition is like that. The X is like, how fast I want to move, or the company to move on ambition level. Let's say the founder of Revolut's ambition is like that, just for a reference, right? Some other, let's say, some traditional bank's ambition is probably like this. And if it's correlated with your ambition, you see, okay, the company's ambition is like that, mine is like that, it's close enough. The problems happen when your ambition is like that, you go to a company, you see that their ambition is like that. That's the problem. The better problem to have is when your ambition is like that, the company is like that. That's better.
What is winning for you then? In the Revolut case now, what would be?
Winning, I will sound very, probably boring with the answer. But the winning is you cannot lose when you focus on customers. So the winning for me is still, this is probably rooted in my early days, some of the early users here as well, when we were really making our word, our brand known. We would do a lot of, sign-ups, a lot of like presentations, etc. These early days, to see the smile in users' face, that this is really like, I mean, it's very boring now, changing their lives.
Sounds like metrics. We talk about NPS, Net Promoter Score. You look at that daily.
Yeah, but it's really saving money, making the experience super, super easy, reinventing the way world does money, essentially. So this is what drives us, at least myself.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Talking about a failure where you learned a lot from as well and so?
From a semi-finals perspective, maybe we are more practical. We are a regional player, basically. But what we understand, maybe it's not failures, but challenges, as we mentioned previously. Diversification in everything. What I want to say is this diversification in everything. In our case, when we are doing lending business in funding, diversify your funding sources. When we started, it was only one way to get funds from the market. Now we have 5. And we speed up everything very fast. Diversify your revenue streams. When we started our activities, we had only one revenue stream, invoice financing. Now we have 5. So we are, tripling our revenues. When we started our activities, we had only like 3 sectors which was financed by us. Now we have full GDP. We are financing full GDP now. And it's our tailor-made solutions prepare basically for all SMEs already. And third,
good with GDP. This is just to reflect. Okay. The best mission statement. The company you probably learn as well at the BMI about the mission and vision that is important to guide the company. And obviously we have one. But the best that I like, I'm not going to talk about Revolut, is Stripe. The payments acquiring company. Yeah. Is increasing the GDP of internet. Increasing the GDP of internet, because they obviously e-commerce, pushing e-commerce. So financing the full GDP, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It just sounds good.
You see the whole turnover. It's in cloud.
Yeah.
You should reach this turnover. How we can reach? Through the internet. So we step by step doing this.
The whole GDP. Yeah.
But would you say then the focus, because in the early days as well, many people in entrepreneurship say, hey, you need to focus on the use case, on a certain customer, and focus. Here, talking about failure and so, would you say you focus and then there was a failure, and now you feel in a diversified kind of portfolio it's much better?
Then the COVID hit us. Yes, we understand that we should diversify, because as I mentioned, before the COVID, we had like 2 revenue streams, basic 80-20 rule, 80% for factoring, 20 from everybody else. And now we have from factoring activities only 20, but 80 from other revenue streams. So it's essential the lesson learned is behind that if you want to be like boutique and not so fast growing company, you can leave the, few products, but if you want to take bigger wallet from the customer, you should speed up everything. Product launches, customization of this product, etc.
I think this would be such a fascinating as well panel and around product and how, the speed that you're moving as well. I hear from you now launching all these products. Revolut definitely as well, I know is launching lots of product as well. Develop very rapidly in that space and under the pressure now to find an exciting product.
Because we should focus on our end user. Customer is our end user. He is paying for us percentage. So.
But the customers, they always want more and they want so much. And give me this bell and this whistle.
And we give more. We give more. We started from few products. Now we give more and more and more. And we keep, somehow locked in our ecosystem. We want to lock the clients in good way, of course.
Like to have
in our
basket of offerings and stuff. Agnė, your failure story and what you learned from it?
So on the failure story, I have two. So one was, as I mentioned before, our compliance gaps that we found at the beginning. Well, at least I've joined the team as well.
Don't forget.
Yeah, I know they everywhere, so it's fine. I talk a lot about that as well. Because I think eventually what it brought us, obviously we were sanctioned and we got fined, and it's not a lesson that I tell anyone to go through because it's very harmful for the company, and I suggest even someone who never had the inspection, never have it, and be so good at compliance that you wouldn't even want to be inspected. But our lesson from here, what we now have, is one of the best, really the best teams of compliance, of AML monitoring and all the transactions and risk management in Lithuania, I would dare to say. Because, it would have happened, but not in that speed and in not that focus and in not that quality, I think. And what it gives us now that we are now testing the product that is driven by our compliance team as well. So it kind of opened us the door and view of how compliance can be beneficial in a business. So it's not only the expense center, but it can be the revenue center as well. So that's where we, it's a bit of, it was a shift, an expected shift for us that we found on the way. But I think that's I don't know if you call it a failure or lesson learned, that we really...
a risk or some problem that showed up.
Yeah,
and
that
then you
we wouldn't, if someone would have asked us if we want to do that voluntarily, we would have said no. But as it happened, then we had really to react and speed up things and do things differently with a different approach as well. The second one was about the product launch as well, that we did launch the product following the client, except we forgot to get the commitment from the client. And then when we launched the product, we saw that this is a very narrow market, that it's not going to be valuable for us just to live with that product, with that client. And that's how we now are at the stage of reviewing the strategy and seeing, so who's the next best fit, or who's the closest to our client in terms of the behavior, in terms of the product used, and so on. And we actually are discovering a lot of potential as well in different markets or different industries, really, in the same markets as well. So that was a good lesson, still in the process of learning.
I would say, no, we want to open it up here right after the next question. I would put one more question out there with the ask, because we have the three, so it's maybe quick question, quick answer. Mike, final question here before opening up would be as well around thinking around plan B, right? Have you thought around, entrepreneurship is very risky, there's the team aspect, right? So you have maybe some disagreements, and then you feel like, oh shoot, maybe I should leave. How do you think about the plan B? What if your current role doesn't work out and the current venture doesn't work out? Maybe a quick reflection on that for people.
Mike has died, so yeah. Plan B on personal level or personal level? You don't think about these things. Somehow you almost, but again, everyone is different, right? Somebody could be really, really upset after, being let go from the company after 2 weeks, or leaving the company after 2 weeks, and essentially, okay, doesn't matter. It didn't work out, right? I'll find something else. So for me, it was always you would know that as long as you kind of believe, you would know that you will find the place, right? As long as you. What is success? What is success? Is failure iterated many times. I heard this. I heard this from our former head of growth, who learned that at Spotify, right? So Spotify, you probably know, is the highest converted premium model, or freemium model, if you like, in the world, right? 40% of the Spotify users pay for premium, right? So it's amazing how they arrived to this, right? So he was saying the way we arrived to this, it's a success, right? Yeah, it's success because we failed so many 100,000 times, and we iterated. Every time we fail, and then we fail again, and we iterate. That essentially we're just getting to the success. Failure is success, is failure iterated many times, or whatever you want to quote me in national press. Yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
Your personal plan B,
Yeah, personal plan B was no personal plan B. It will work out in the end. I knew it in my head somehow, and that's it. Yeah, but everyone is specific, right? So I cannot talk for everyone.
I'm always focused on plan A and just calibrating my internal flexibility to change, calibrate the approach, make, how to say, additional, introduce additional know-how from different areas, different angles. Just leave it somehow the case. After that, after 1 week, I will come back, and maybe, you know, after small vacations, you see differently the situation. Totally. But
so detaching as well from a problem.
but be focused on the plan A always, no matter what. And maybe you not reach 100%, maybe 80%. It will be quite good result. Not be perfect, but quite good to launch, to proceed, to finish.
It's just interesting to follow up on that. Plan A, I don't think. So again, another like early days at Revolut, right? We wouldn't necessarily have, now we have 3-year plans, right? That we have to submit to the regulator, but also kind of work out internally. But in the early days, you wouldn't have any kind of plans, right? In that sense, yeah, you would set some KPIs for like teams, etc. But as a business, you would say, let's just do whatever we can. Maybe we spot opportunity. We will jump on that opportunity. So in the early days, I think it's also a viable strategy to do. Our founder has this theory. I haven't read it, but I heard it and I liked it. He said it's bacteria law, whatever. Is there a bacteria law? We have to Google ourselves. Maybe I will do after this, because I'm telling that to the whole world for like 100 times, and I need to verify if it's actually true. But I believe it is to some extent. So let's say it's a big pool of water, right? And you put some organic stuff, let's say food, in one side of the water, of the corner of the pool, right? And you put some bacteria on the other side of the pool, right? And the thing is that bacteria will always find the food, right? Maybe they will and they will find the food. And this is the thinking, at least in the early days, right? That Revolut is always going to find the way to success. Whether it's iteration, whether it's something else, whether it's doing many things at once, which we do, right? We do a lot of projects. We probably have like 30 new products in the makings, right? And we're going to be launching them soon. So you will find, because you look, Amazon started with book selling only. Now they are in all over the place, and you know AWS is making the majority of the profits, right? Nokia started in wood, some wood making. Obviously, they don't have too much, you know, to show now, but you know they went to that. So Apple, computers only. You know, so it's always this kind of bacteria finding your way. You know, whether it, because there is no plan A.
And,
right?
and nobody knows the plan. What's
exactly.
Going to be the plan
What's the plan
B
A?
as well. And that's the adaptation for you know, once you start where the focus is and the commitment. So you should. I don't personally think about the plan B when I start something. Within 3 months, yes, because I think that's the testing grounds and testing the priorities, ambitions, and so on. But then afterwards, you just fall in 100% and you dedicate, you know, and commit.
But again, caveat. For, at least from Revolut's perspective, from my own perspective and my own observations, is it's more valid for the, or you know, at least in our case, for the early growth stage, right? Until you get there, because let's face it, investors like stability, right? They want this corporation type of environment, right, where processes are there, systems are there. You know, contingency planning,
clear metrics, clear execution.
Exactly. So, you know, for all the traditional banks, it's kind of easy, you know, oh, traditional banks that don't use it, they are like crap. No, they are not crap. They are following at that level. You already have to follow that, right? Because Facebook, you probably have seen Zuckerberg drinking beer upside down, you know, in these videos in the early days of Facebook. Now, I'm pretty sure he's not doing that, at least not publicly.
And he has some other people to help him there while he drinks beers as well. Yeah. Or does this like wave riding stuff. Perfect. I'd say let's open up as well. No, we want to make it very interactive. Do we have questions here, reflections and so? Who wants to start? You get the microphone. Here we go.
when your organizations were in nascent stage and the name didn't speak for yourself, so what was the way of approaching your clients, and what challenging were with your first clients? And
What was the way of approaching our first clients?
yeah, and what were the challenges that you've met? You know, like stumbling blocks and so on. Maybe there are certain stories, or maybe there are good learning experiences. You know.
Closing the first customers.
Or it was very easy. Oh, it's also a story that, okay, like being SME finance from the very beginning was profitable, yeah?
Yeah,
so it's a good...
I was the first employee of SME Finance who closed this deal, so I remember very well. I started in July 15. In August 2, I think I already had first client with 250,000 euros limit. So it was quite easy for us to start everything, but to scale up, it's very challenging, because different environment in B2B segment, different underwriting, different channels to reach these clients. That's why we don't have like very scalable unicorn in B2B lending like area. I don't know, you know?
I think in general it's very, very relations-based, like the whole banking. So that's not only technology, but...
Arguably, you guys have it easier. You give away money, right? And there's a lot of people that need cash flow, right? It's like, hey, okay, if you give me money...
It's true, but when you're calculating 24 yearly, they're calculating as well. It's worth for them take this loan or not. So
but some people are desperate, right?
At the beginning.
There's some businesses that are pretty desperate for cash. I would be scared, like, oh shoot, are we really want to give that credit?
It's not only about how to lend, but it's only how to bring the money back as well. That's why you should be like very conscious to give the money, tolerance of the risk, and etc. etc. And different sectors feels differently cycles or downturns. You should be like, that's why diversification in everything. It's like, I didn't finish where we are diversified.
I think in fintech or banking, especially differently from many other differences, I think there are more businesses or people willing to become clients, but not all of them can become clients because of the risks associated. So I think in our case as well, this was the first place, because I was a lot working in the marketing before. This was a first place that I didn't, like, we didn't need marketing really. Like we had a pipeline, 175 companies waiting to be onboarded to have an account, no lending. Cards pretty crap. Like it was more about
kind of
payments
pitching to them. What could they
we
do?
were not like, so we had the exposure of, you know, the front face of marketing, and we did have a stand in the expos. We had a lot of like referrals or
what was the
relations.
product like? What is?
So it's the payment. So it's basically a payment account, and you can transfer euros and SWIFT, like the international payments, and you would have a bank card for the company. So it's B2B. So a really simple but very user-friendly product. But also, like as I've said, there's a pipeline. What our knowledge was and where the compliance comes in, that we were supposed to be, and we are now specifically smart about the risk that we take and who do we onboard with or not. So that's I think it's a specific of the financial industry as well, on that level.
Getting the first clients of Revolut.
So first clients of Revolut is probably very close to what Agnė said. It's essentially getting this sign-ups before the product is live, ideally, right? Because you really can test that, and it's a science behind that, right? How you can test whether your idea or your solution that you just thought, right, with friends to launch, right, is actually viable. Right, is getting that out there in a very, very simple mock-up place, like a website at least, right? With like, you know, the problem, solution.
Sign up here.
Sign up here. We'll inform you when we launch, and we never launch, right? If it doesn't have enough sign-ups. That happened very, very similar to Revolut, although Revolut, the founders were really determined to launch it, obviously, so they would have launched it, but they had 10 or 15,000 pre-sign-up or like sign-ups right before the product launch. I had at that time 10,000 businesses signed up before we launched business product.
Wow.
Yeah, that was easier than to cross-reference them from retail into that. So
and it's a huge business, for sure.
It was easier, right? And obviously not everyone signed up, right? On that day when we opened the gate, but that's good, right? That you see, you have that offer, that proposition, like bam, 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 it will do that, and you see that, oh, people are like interested into that. And you can do whatever, in the end, you maybe don't need to launch anything, right? But just checking the appetite, right? The worst that you can do is close the doors, don't market, don't test it, don't tell to the world what you are trying to
stealth mode
achieve.
kind of forever.
Yeah, like close for 3 years, spend all your family's money, all your money, all your friends' money, and launch something which nobody needs. But it works nicely. Everything clicks nicely.
Perfect product.
Without any...
As well, I take as a fantastic opportunity in the finance space, right? You really see that the customers are longing for a solution. They are definitely open to explore new offerings. They are not so super happy here and there with existing banks as well. Yeah. So I think it's great as well, great message for entrepreneurs. Maybe one more question, and then we wrap up. Anybody final question that you want to get in? If we have one, it seems like we have none. So then that leaves us the final question as the final comment maybe, or kind of consideration. Here we have people in executive positions thinking about, what should I do with life? Now I hear all the crazy entrepreneurs, all these stories. Maybe my industry is too, maybe I should become an entrepreneur. What advice, what final message would you have to people thinking about what to do?
Joking. For Revolut, maybe. Sorry, advice for
advice?
people.
No, how to figure out. No, we talked about the risk, the failure part, and so appetite for. So how should you?
Look, I'm pretty sure. The majority of them, you are in they're in the executive positions, right? Like either the CEOs or owners, right? So they must know something already with their life, right?
Many years of experience in that space. Now thinking about, should I give it all up, that asset that I have built up there?
Maybe not, At least from my side. Then again, it's easy for me to speak what happened, 10 years ago when I entered into that startup world, and I was kind of ready, young at that time, right? Only 55, to really try something before retiring. Change the world. No, but that factor also plays, the age factor also plays, where you are in the career development, right? Because I think majority of you guys that you've chosen to do MBA, right? Which was also on my mind at some point, right? Maybe after third startup or fourth startup, what the hell, let's leave this, bullshit startup world and let's do something, normal, right? So I even considered BMI at that time because it was close, obviously, here. So, but I didn't go, okay, let's do another one. Let's do one more startup, right? But it was different than you are. So I imagine a lot of you want to boost your competence in dealing with the uncertainties in your business, hopefully, right? So that could be the majority of you, right? Building to know how to tackle these uncertainties in your business. And I would maybe, again, I don't know everyone, to see maybe you can then make a difference within your business rather than outside your business. Maybe for some will be this signal, these studies, right, to really do something else. And it's never too late, right? We know a lot of Jeff Bezos even, he started 37 or so, Amazon. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not not useful on this side because everyone is really different. It's very hard to tell everyone. But yeah, maybe yeah.
But I think very inspiring to see this opportunities in the fintech space. And just if we would go through all the industries, I think we see, hey, we could do a tech company within that industry, and having that knowledge from the industry could help.
If I can, I really wanted to say this thing. We said, yeah, failure is iteration multiplied, right? Success is when you iterate failure a lot of times. But I also like this Scott Galloway's. Some of you may be reading his blogs or podcasts. Scott Galloway, amazing professor of another university, not BMI, and he said one thing. He asked me, why are you so successful? He's a successful entrepreneur, also professor, and like a nice person, it seems. He said, it's pure luck. And the other day I was also thinking in the car, in the traffic jam in Vilnius. It's a big city. Essentially, it's luck. It's timing and luck. It's a lot of luck when you really think about that, because I accidentally met founders of Revolut in this random conference when I was at TransferGo at that time, like 6 years ago. I followed up on then I accidentally, did that and that. So luck is also an important factor, no matter what you plan A, plan C, plan Z, it doesn't matter, luck. And especially it's visible in your personal life when you meet wife or you say, oh, just 5 minutes later and I wouldn't have met him or her, right? So it's all about luck.
But that's why I think it's not only the
Simulation.
luck. There's nothing happens without the purpose. So it's when I look at my career path, personal one, when in a small fraction I thought, okay, this is probably luck that I coincidentally met the mayor or I met that person or someone else. But really, when you look retrospectively, then you recognize, at this place you gain this, at that place you learn this, at this, and it totally makes sense because then you can track how you met that person, why and where and why you happen to be in that place, and so on and on and on. But then on the advice, I think it's a matter to admit that there was a failure, to recognize it, to say it out loud and share it, and take responsibility of that. And then move on and do that very, very fast. So you don't dwell on it. You don't think, oh, why I should have done this or that and that. And it's not only about fintech, but in general, I think in all businesses needs the failures or things. So it's admitting and moving fast. Don't live with it and just leave it. It's gone. It's in the past. So it's, look forward. That would be my approach to.
From startup, I learned fail fast. It's one, I think. And my proposal for for the young people, for managers, if you want to, leave your comfort zone, take this opportunity, because maybe it's only one opportunity besides the luck to change something in your life. Of course, earn some money, like from personal perspective, to reach your personal goal, realization of your mind. And I think from my perspective, as I worked in the Swedbank. I was simple, as mentioned, project manager, but I wanted to change something. I wanted to change something and kick some asses from my ex-colleagues changing the lending business. Because, it's easy to work with the SMEs, the same client base, etc., etc. One day you will get like, increase of salary, but it's not my way. It's not my way. I choose the opportunity to change something, and it works. It works because behind that it was a lot of hard working, a lot of fail fast decisions, and now I'm participating in one of the biggest community in the Baltics with FinTech Hub, etc., etc. And we are visible, so we will leave the mark in the Baltics, I think. It's good achievement already.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all three so much for joining us for this very personal, sharing experience about risk, failure, the journey of an entrepreneur in the entrepreneurship space, and all the best for you moving forward. Thanks.